Our final portion of today's PD is about Google Meet. Google Meet is endorsed by Chino Valley Unified School District and is the preferred method of having virtual, synchronous, live lessons with our students. It is safer and easier than it was months ago and is just getting better. Before we go any further, I will make it clear that there were announcements being made recently about updates coming to Google Meet. And those updates are going to add some features that we really do need. However, we don't know exactly when those updates are arriving, unfortunately. They could come tomorrow, or they could come December 31st. They like to say September, October, but no matter what you hear, it's unlikely that Google Meet will be changing before your first, second, third week of school. My job is to show you the best way to use it, and so I'll be doing that right now. You saw in the Google Classroom portion of our training that there is a link right here on our stream page that I generated when my classroom was initially created. And we got there by tapping on this gear, and there was, of course, the Meet logo, and it said Generate Meet Link, which I did. That's the Meet link from inside Google Classroom, however. So please do not attempt to copy this and then email it to somebody that you need to join the classroom who hasn't, or the Meet rather, who hasn't been able to join. There is an option, and I'll show you that in a minute, but for right now, this link will only work from Google Classroom. Also, I think I told you that you can make the link not visible. Right now, my students cannot see that link, so nobody's going to be tapping away at this link as a student trying to get into a Google Classroom. And until I'm there, I'm going to pretty much leave that invisible. Shortly before my meeting is going to begin, I will come over here and toggle that on, tap Save, and then after that, my students will be able to show up on their stream page and access their meeting. The reason I want my students all accessing the meeting from inside Google Classroom is a security. Basically, until I show up, my students cannot join this meeting. And when I leave, my students must leave. Also, with 5 or more people in the meeting, everyone else except for me is muted. Now, I know what you're saying. They can unmute themselves. Yes, they can. With the new update, they will not be able to do that. I will have much greater control over the students in my Google Meets at that time. But for right now, I can only tell you what we have. I'm going to go ahead and tap on that link because that's the way I'm getting into my Google Meet as well. And I think I'm going to turn that camera off so you don't have to, see me. I've turned my camera off. You can still hear my voice. I think that's a lot less distracting for the purposes of this training. I click on Join Now. And if you'll recall, I mentioned that there is a way to allow new students who have not yet received their district, or rather network username and password, so they have not been able to join Google Classroom yet. There is a way to get them into your meeting. Also, there is a way to allow a parent into this meeting should you need to. Perhaps you're having a career day and you have a dad who's going to talk about being a firefighter, or a mom who's going to talk about being a doctor. So here we have copied joining information. And notice I'm only getting this joining information from right here from within the meeting. So if I tap that, copied meeting link, my job is now going to be to send this information to that student who's brand new, or to the parent who's joining for career day, or whatever other purpose you have. I'm going to go ahead and close this box, and I also wanted you to notice that down here in the lower left-hand corner, that same information is available again. So if you forget to click it here, or you get an email or text from somebody reminding you, you can still come down here and get it. Now, I have that information on my virtual clipboard. I'm going to need to go up to the top of my screen in my browser and find a place where I can send an email. I could probably also take a photograph of it and send it via text to somebody, but I would recommend anybody joining from outside, which is going to be very, very rare, but anybody joining from outside should not join until about 5 minutes into the meeting. Okie doke, so now you've got a a white ribbon down here at the bottom, you guys can see. And yes, I am talking. I just didn't want to have the throbbing light there. And this white ribbon sometimes disappears as you're moving your mouse around and you're popping in and out of things. You might miss that white ribbon. So just float your mouse down towards the bottom third of the screen. That white ribbon will show up again. Clearly, here is where we mute ourselves, which you don't have to do very often. And here's where your students will mute themselves. You may be taking attendance with a roll call, and so kids will need to unmute themselves and then mute themselves again. You may have students sharing ideas. You may have students sharing other things as well. So I want to show you where that is. I know you like to see your students' faces. That makes perfect sense. But if they have their camera turned off, keep in mind it might be because of a shyness issue or self-consciousness. You are going to see the first 16 entrants up here. With the new update, you will see up to 49. Up to 49 with the new update, but right now it's just the 16. You cannot scroll through them. It's not good news, I know, but it is worth knowing. If I want to turn on captions, I can do that. So I can see captions on my screen. Of course, you can't see them right now because I muted myself. I guess I'm going to have to unmute myself in order for the system to hear my voice and provide the captions that I want. If I were on this meeting with another person, of course, I would see captions for the words that that person speaks as well. Students can turn captions off and on for themselves. Right over here is present now. This is how you present whatever is on your screen. So whatever you see, your students see. I'm going to turn these captions off. So if, for example, I want them to see my face, I have my camera turned on. And with my camera, with the camera turned on, they see me. If I decide to present my screen, I'm provided with 3 choices. What do I want my students to see? I'm going to turn my camera off again for a second. There we go. If I want my students to see my entire screen, and my students are you, so I typically use my entire screen. I can pop around to different pages, different windows. I can even go so far as to minimize my my browser entirely and show a PowerPoint or show something on my desktop. So my entire screen gives me the power to move around without having to worry that I've lost their view. A window, if I choose instead of your entire screen, I choose a window, your system will ask you which window do you want to show. Well, this is a private conversation I'm having with somebody. This is our meeting. This is the screen recorder that I'm using to record this PD. So there are some things that I would not use. If I want my kids to see this page right here and just that window, then I can have them see just that window. Finally, the third option is one that came with the April update, and it's really cool. It will provide a better audio-video experience for your students while you're showing a video on a Google Meet. So if I choose this one, you're going to see that I get several choices. Let's see if I can move this up a little bit. There you go. It's showing all the tabs I have open in Chrome. Well, I know exactly where my video is. It's right here. So if I tap on that, and I tap on share, and there's my little video. I don't actually have any sound on right now, so let me go ahead and turn that. I don't think I even need it necessarily. There we go. And when I play that video, it should, yeah, there's not much sound here to the California Valley quail anyway, but this is supposed to provide the best experience for your students watching a video. So you would just choose a screen that has a video on it. And then when you're done, you go back to your meeting, which if you'll observe up here, this tab that has the red dot on it is our meeting. And you can choose stop presenting. There was also a blue stop presenting button there for us as well. All right. So those are some of the immediate features. A couple other things too I want to call attention to up in the upper right. This is, as you saw earlier in our sessions, Mr. Head and Shoulders, which will give me a list of everybody in our meeting. Tiny little images like that. That's where I can control mute if I have to. It's a pain in the neck though. I get that. And then right here, chat, which if I go here, it takes me to the same place. Chat in Google Meet is everyone. There are no private conversations in Google Meet. So if somebody sends a message to everyone, everyone will get it. Again, this is not something that you can control as a teacher right now, but you will be able to control it when the autumn update arrives. So I am sorry about that. Now, the good thing about chat is that you can send things to your students. You can send them links that will allow them to go to a page and they can work independently. You can send them a link to to Flipgrid, or you can send them a link to a website. You can send them a link to an assignment page that you want them to work on. You can send them a link to Padlet where you want them to add some thoughts, some reflections perhaps. In this case, I have copied and pasted a link to a site where they can find some videos that might be helpful to them. So again, keep in mind that that chat doesn't have to be nothing but bad news. It can possibly be good news for you as well. In the very lowest right corner, there are 3 vertical dots. Those are ellipses. And when you tap on that, you saw earlier that you could record your meeting. Please do not record your meeting for the purposes of posting anywhere public. That's not okay. You can record it for your own purposes, for your own review, and if there are no student faces or voices, you can record a meeting to curate and use for the lesson portion. Right here, change layout. Students may want to change to spotlight view to make sure that their view of you and your screen is as large as possible on their device. They can choose whatever layout they want, same as you can choose whatever layout works for you, of course. Full screen, there we go. You see what that did is, maybe you don't see what that did, but basically eliminated the browser menu and some of the edges so that you got as much real estate showing content as possible. Also, if I tap on those ellipses, there's a couple places where you can kind of help students with some troubleshooting. Under settings, sometimes students have trouble with their audio or video, and so you can ask them to check and make sure that if they have more than one microphone, they're using the microphone that works best for this. Sometimes one will work better than another. Same thing with speakers. If they can't hear you well, they may have more than one speaker set up, so you can have them look in there. Also, video, we've seen a couple of resolution issues, and so I recommend checking their resolution. And while this says the receive is standard definition, if I'm having trouble, maybe I will go to high def, or maybe even audio only, just to make sure we can finish up the meeting without losing our persons. I'm going to click done here. And I want to go over a couple of commonly asked questions, if you don't mind. The first most commonly asked question is, can I hook my document camera up to my computer so that I can see what's under my document camera on my screen? Yes, you can. And remember, whatever is on your screen, your students can also see. This puts you in a position that's far more familiar and comfortable, sitting in a chair at a desk with a document camera, hovering over a math worksheet while you are marking it up and providing instruction. So there are 2 different kinds of document cameras out there in our district. It's either an AVER, which is the slightly older version. It's usually black in color. There are several different models. The other brand is Epson. Those are usually white in color, and those are the newer models. I have documentation I am forwarding to everybody. It's also available on in the resources that we're going to talk about in less than 3 minutes here. And if you have one of those 2, you'll need to use what's called a printer cord or cable to connect your DocCam to your district issued device. There's a picture of what that printer cable looks like on the documents that I'm forwarding to you that you'll see also in the website that we're going to talk about. And that is pretty much the only cable that works for laptops to recognize DocCams. Once the laptop has recognized a DocCam, you'll need to download a piece of software. And that software is just basically what's called a visualizer, and it allows the communication to work. basically. But it's actually not as complicated as I just made it sound. But yeah, dot cams are a great solution. I've also been asked by a few people about using their ViewSonic viewboard. And while there's nothing wrong with using a ViewSonic viewboard for your Google Meets, I don't necessarily know if you want to stand in front of an empty room while you're conducting virtual lessons. Remember that your ViewSonic viewboard is just a computer, and if the reason you want to use it is because you like to be able to draw on it and write on it, it's very, very likely that your current district issued laptop is also inkable. So consider this. There is Whiteboard software that you can use on your laptop. Without going into too much detail here, I don't want to get in the weeds, but down here in my taskbar of my Windows 10 computer, I have this little icon right here. I'll try and drop an arrow here. It looks like a pen with a squiggle. If I hover there, it's called a Windows Ink Workspace. If you don't see that in your taskbar, this black ribbon, you can right-click and make sure there's a check mark next to Show Windows Ink Workspace button. If there's not, then go ahead and tap that comment and it'll provide you with that little icon. When I tap on that icon, it may ask me to install, but I'm going to go ahead and click on Whiteboard. And if it asks me to install, I'm going to log in with my district account. Now you can see I've already used this a few times. And basically, this is a whiteboard program, and it's available to anybody and everybody, 100% free. Right here, if I tap on Create New Whiteboard, it will give me a whole bunch of little tools, and those tools will allow me to write, sketch, whatever I want to do. There are some really great, down here is your toolbar, there are some really great instructional materials available in the resource I'm going to talk to you about in about 45 seconds. This also is a collaborative whiteboard, so if you check out those documents that I'm going to tell you about, you can invite people to this whiteboard and literally have your students working on something at the same time as you, or have each student with their own little whiteboard working on it and you're being able to view it. Tons of potential, but my whole message is basically whatever you see here, your students will also see while you're in a Google Meet. For those that have noticed and we've already talked about, or maybe you came to my webinar or attended the Cami webinar, but we also have Cami available to us, and Cami is another version of a whiteboard app. I can pull in documents from my Google Drive, I can pull in a blank page, I can even pull something off my computer, and then I can simply draw or etch on it. Just make sure, and again, check out the resources we're going to talk about in about 20 seconds. Make sure that you have logged in with your district credentials. And when this pops open, you'll see a whole selection of, I already drew on it, whole selection of tools over here that students and you can be using. I mention you though because when you were talking about whatever's on your screen is what your students can see in a Google Meet, this is a fine example of a way to teach or instruct kids how to finish something that might be waiting for them in their Google Classroom. All right, lots of things you can be doing. So whiteboard apps, there's also one called Jamboard we didn't cover. There's materials about that. We do not have breakout rooms in Google Meet right now. There are some materials for a workaround on breakout rooms. And again, this is not really the best place to provide instruction for breakout rooms, but I am going to take you now into our resources for not just teachers, but also for students and other stakeholders. Earlier today in that first video, you saw a teacher's ClassLink page, and on that ClassLink page, there was this icon. This icon takes you to a Ed Tech Distance Classroom Support page that I want to show you. This page is curated with the topics and resources that were most needed last spring, and also updated with some of our other updates as well. These are the archives. If you really like that old FAQ page, then you may go there. If you are looking for parent and student resources, there is a parent and student version of this page. It's still kind of a work in process, but there's plenty of student view videos here. These are the weekly webinars on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. These are the videos from there, and everything else down here is easy to find. If you're looking for information about Cami, there is a very familiar icon for Cami. If you want information about student email, you can go there. In the student email page, of course, is that video I said you could send to your student. It's a little introduction. It's 1 minute and 17 seconds. All you have to do is open it and click the share icon. You can also surf through these comments up at the top. If your students or you are having difficulty with personal accounts interfering with your work, or if you want to make your district Google account your default, you can come here. So we paid a lot of attention to the kinds of things that teachers and parents and students were all in need of when we were working on the phones and in the community support hotline last spring. All right, in addition, on your ClassLink page, you have this little icon right here. That little icon stands for the a sway with information about every single account that you have, whether it's rostered, how to take care of password issues, how to take care of other troubleshooting issues. So look for this one. And then this is that SchoolWires one that has the sway about the model website. So these are all on your ClassLink. This is the email you want to use. Make sure you get whoever is here, because some of us go off contract and you just won't know when. For students and guardians, there's other resources. This is the page that is also linked to our version. This is the work in process. I'll show you where parents are going to find this. You can actually provide them with this link if you want to, but I'll also show you where it can be found on the district website. This right here is what parents and students can contact us using this email. We are answering the messages from this from 8 to 3 Monday through Friday. We're also answering this phone 8 to 3 Monday through Friday. And these are access questions for the most part, come through here. And one little thing, we are not allowed in our department to provide usernames and passwords to students. Students have been told, and they'll continue to be told, that they need to contact you or the school site admin in order to get usernames and passwords that they may have forgotten. Okay, so with that, we look forward to seeing you guys all in person as soon as possible. Have a terrific year. It's going to be interesting. Quite a ride ahead of us. Looking forward to hearing from y'all.